Sallie Lindstrom descended from the curio shop tower, down all those endless flights of stairs. Each footfall wrenched at the injury in her side. God, what a mess. The whole situation made her feel sick. Sick of herself and sick of the world she'd created as a child. Sick of the irresponsible little brat who built this place. Maybe she should have kept watch over the prairie this whole time. Sallie closed her eyes and pushed herself forward. At last, she reached the bottom of the steps. Immense objects from the Mystic Prairie curio shop surrounded her. Steamship smokestacks, horse-drawn calliopes, electrical poles and railroad ties, a B-29, a Spanish galleon. A pile of telephone insulators glinted like jewels in the noonday sun. She saw huge mountains of trash with paths in between them. The size of the Mystic Prairie curio shop defied imagination. At that moment, she heard footsteps on Main Street. She knew it had to be Gale. "Hide!" her heart screamed at her. Instinct took over. Sallie limped away from the stairs and lost herself between the mounds of junk. She huddled herself behind a conglomeration of cast iron stoves stacked in a pillar, and she peeked out at the tower entrance. She's here to kill Ramsey, but she won't find him. Her gut told her that Ramsey had gone. He did what he came to do, and then he left. Sallie felt sure of it. Why am I hiding? I should just try to talk to Gale. But when Gale rounded the corner, Sallie figured that maybe a conversation wasn't such a bright idea. Gale's face looked like an ancient Greek theater mask, frozen in agony. Her wild, matted hair bulked against the sky. Tears leaked out of her face. She wiped them away as though baffled by them. She walked to the foot of the stairs and she mumbled to herself, "I heard him shouting somewhere around here. Where is he? Up in the tower? He won't even let me go home. I just have to accept that. I have to kill him. He can't get away with this. I should just kill him, right, Dad?" Sallie stared. Gosh, look at her. She's completely out of control. Poor kid. Sallie felt the tears well up in her eyes. She blinked them away. How long did he keep her here? Ramsey was right about one thing, at least. She couldn't walk away from this situation. Gale was pacing around the foot of the steps now, muttering and swinging her sword. Sallie pressed herself against the stove, entirely out of view. She closed her eyes and gathered herself. Then she opened her mouth and she screamed into the silence. "Ramsey's gone, but I can help you." Her voice ricocheted off the piles of junk. "I want to send you home." Sallie peeked over the stove. Gale stood, frozen, with one foot on the step. She turned and stalked away from the stairs. Then she paused to listen. Hunting. Sallie tried not to make a sound. She's certainly gonna kill me if she finds me, Sallie thought. But maybe I can get through to her if I have a chance to explain. Sallie abandoned her hiding place, and she crept between the piles. She lost sight of Gale, but that was okay. She just needed to keep moving. For one unsettling moment, Sallie felt like a 10-year-old girl again, as though she'd just infiltrated Sam's Curio Emporium to sneak around in the dust. She ducked behind a mountain of readers' encyclopedias, and she shouted to Gale again. "Gale, listen, I know how to get in and out of here just like Ramsey. I can open a door and get you out." She hoped the echoes would mask her location somewhat. "I can take you home." "I don't believe you." And then Gale was sobbing. Sallie couldn't see Gale, but she heard those agonized, tearing breaths. Sallie called to her in a cheerful voice. "Pull yourself together. You don't have time to cry. I can fix this right now." "Fix this? You saved him. You're with him." Gale's voice sounded closer, but Sallie couldn't trace the sound, so she couldn't move away from it. "I didn't know he was trapping people. Not till I saw you, I promise." "Liar! How do you know I'm a liar? You don't know me." You can't know anything much at all when you're panicked like that. I'm not panicked. Gail's voice sounded even closer now. Sallie tried to move away in silence, but her foot hit an old leather roller skate. It rattled across the floor. Oh, hell. She heard footfalls. She turned and she saw Gail barreling towards her, saber drawn, not 50 feet away. Sallie felt herself cringe. She wanted to shrink back, escape, but she didn't flinch. She stood to face Gail. Gail dashed closer and closer. She raised her sword. I'd like to help you escape. What do you say? Gail stopped. Only a foot or two separated them. She looked puzzled. Clearly, she expected Sallie to run. Sallie waited to feel the sword carve into her shoulder. But Gail just stood, saber in the air. Sallie took her chance. I can get you out. If I don't manage to open a door for you, then you can kill me. You're lying, Gail said. We already covered that. I haven't told you a single lie since I got here. Cross my heart. And honestly, look at you. What have you got to lose exactly by letting me try? Pure fury flooded across Gail's face. The sword wavered above Gail's head. Careful, Sallie thought. You push her the least little bit and you're dead where you stand. She swallowed. I know we got off on the wrong foot, but now you've got all the power here. Gail's stance softened a bit. She dropped her shoulders. You can decide what you want to do. Gail stared at her for a moment longer. Then slowly she lowered her sword. The moment Gail put down the saber, a blank, airless sensation filled Sallie's skull. She heard a rushing noise. Golly, that's great. We're making progress, Sallie said cheerily. She grinned. Then her legs buckled, her body pitched forward, and she fell. Her chin hit the pavement, her head bounced. Gail shouted something unintelligible. Then she reached down and rolled Sallie over. The eternal noon sun made a halo out of Gail's matted hair. Sallie gazed up at her. It's nice to meet you, she said. Gail stared at Sallie, emotionless, impassive, her fury quieted. She examined the wound in Sallie's ribs. Has she been stabbed? Why is there blood coming out of her eyes? I have a bleeding disorder, so I'm just sick. Pay it no mind. Do you have any water? No. Gail reached into her jacket and pulled out a flask. Not water. I only have cream soda. Water's hard to come by, but there's always soda in the pit. She tried to pass the flask to Sallie, but Sallie didn't have the energy to lift her arms. She raised her head a little. Pour some of that into my mouth, would you? Gail stared at her. Don't get annoyed, said Sallie. It's just that my hands don't have any strength in them. Gail blinked. She opened the bottle, and then in one swift gesture, she dumped the soda onto Sallie's face. She missed Sallie's mouth by several inches. Sallie sputtered and gasped and drank what she could. Sorry, Gail whispered, even as she continued to pour. Sallie choked on a laugh. Great aim, very refreshing. Now listen, to get you back home, we have to make a door, so I'm gonna need mirrors. Mirrors? Again, Gail looked confused. Yes, it's for a kind of spell. This whole place runs on witchcraft. I need 2 mirrors to make a door. One mirror can be small, but the second mirror needs to be large enough that we can walk right through. Gail began to pace about. She scanned the horizon. Says she needs mirrors. She stopped. The palace. It's made of mirrors. But that's in her territory. Sallie didn't bother to ask whose territory exactly. She just wanted to go home. Help me up, Gail. No, not doing that. I got an honest question for you. How did you survive this long? You seem about as quick on the uptake as a box turtle. I just collapsed in front of you, so help me up. Sallie met Gail's eyes. Then she smiled sweetly. You want to get out of here, right? Fine, Gail snarled. She yanked Sallie to her feet. Gail was shockingly strong. Sallie uttered a strangled moan and clutched at her side. They stumbled away together down the road. This is Mystic Prairie, a Fantasia of the Old West, Episode 9, Liminal Beings. For the first time in her life, Sallie Lindstrom has entered into the Mystic Prairie, and she's found a horror there. Her best friend, Ramsey, has trapped a woman in their imaginary world. Sallie has to find out why. The palace, as Gale called it, stood at the far end of Mystic Laurel's Main Street. It had no interior to speak of. It just opened up into an assemblage of arches and panels covered in gilt fleur-de-lis. Sallie saw fluted spires and candy-striped spinning flourishes all over the building. Slabs of gold mirror lined the arches, with their raw edges hammered into place. It was a rural child's rendition of Versailles, Sallie thought, and it looked completely insane. Gale prowled forward, wary and silent. Sallie leaned against her body and staggered along. Sallie examined the mirrors as they drew near the palace. Those will do for big mirrors. But now we need a little mirror, something I can manipulate even though my hands are numb. Gale pulled Sallie right up next to the building. Do you have a hand mirror or something, Gale? Keep your voice down. Here. Without warning, Gale lifted her sword and she slammed the butt of the saber into one of the mirrored panels. Sallie winced. The glass cracked and splintered to pieces. Shards of glass chimed as they hit the ground. Now we've got plenty of small mirrors. Gale peeled a shard from off the spider web of cracks. She pushed it into Sallie's hands. So please do what you need to do. Quick. Sallie turned to face the next full-length mirror on the wall. She fumbled with the shard. It felt so heavy. Her fingers couldn't close around it, numb and awkward as they were. And cold. Everything felt cold. She wanted to go to sleep. She braced herself against Gale's shoulder. Gale fidgeted, scanned the town. For an instant, as she adjusted the glass, she met the eyes of her own reflection. She saw a blood-streaked twig of a girl, sunken-eyed and fragile as milkweed. Next to Sallie, Gale looked comically large in her fencing knickers and rugby pads. An Amazon and a field mouse. We sure do make a pair. Sallie didn't have the strength to laugh. And then, behind them both, in the golden slab of mirror, Sallie saw a ghost. Laurel? The woman stood some distance away from them, at the far end of the street. She surveyed them, her face empty. A tattered dress brushed against her ankles. Laurel! She still looked so much like that frail little girl, graceful, with huge, liquid brown eyes, but grown now to adulthood. No, she's dead. She went crazy and she ran into the prairie and she died. That's what they said. Sallie felt a shudder move through Gale's body. She looked up. Gale's face twisted, her eyes bugged in horror. That's her. God, hurry. Let's go now. The moment she felt Gale shudder, Sallie realized her mistake. It wasn't Laurel. A strange, unfathomable presence looked out at her from behind Laurel's eyes, but it wasn't her. At last, she managed to catch the repeating images in the glass. 5 reflections deep, down that corridor of mirrors, she saw a room. Weathered wooden slats lined the walls of this room, and between the slats, Sallie glimpsed an earthly field that glowed white in the moonlight. Gale moved next to her. Please hurry, you don't know what she can do. The Laurel thing took a step towards them, then another. It began to walk swiftly, purposeful as a cat on the hunt. Sallie twisted the mirror. The golden panel in front of them transformed into a slab of darkness. Sallie saw a star twinkling between the wood walls. Gale's horrified expression crumbled into one of desperate, broken hope. "Let's go!" They staggered through the door together. The door closed behind them. Sallie screamed. The door sent her soul lancing through emptiness like a spear of light through a glass barn. The sensation only lasted for a moment, and then she found herself in another place, a dark place. Sallie's chin chafed against Gale's rugby pads. She couldn't feel her legs. She realized that her whole body dangled limp in Gale's arms, like a Raggedy Ann doll in the crooked arm of a toddler. Where are we? She smelled dew and dust, and beneath all that, a raw freshness so clean and rich it made the saliva pool beneath her tongue. She could nearly taste it. Home. This was home. Not New York. The door had sent them back to Kansas. She rolled her eyes around to take in the view. She couldn't see much but some wind-bitten walls. They were at the barn, she realized. Their old barn out on the prairie, back where it all began. It was so quiet. Why did that creature look so much like Laurel? Gale stood motionless as Sallie leaned against her. Sallie took a single, shuddering breath. I'm gonna be late for work. It suddenly struck her as a wildly funny thing to say. She laughed gently, breathlessly into Gale's shoulder. Or maybe she was crying now. Sallie couldn't rightly tell anymore. "Gale?" she asked. You okay?" "I'm letting my eyes adjust," Gale said. "It's so dark. I haven't seen dark like this in a long time." She took a breath. Sallie could see better, too, at that point. She noticed a bulky shape deep in the barn, obscured by shadow. Was it another car? It looked like another car. She tried to say, "Hey, Gale, look at that!" But before she could get the words out, Gale was dragging Sallie, wrenching her across the dirt, through the Dutch door and into the field outside. The wound under Sallie's rib cage gave a twinge that felt less like pain and more like a spreading numbness. Her head rolled back and she saw for an instant that the sky up above boiled to the brim with stars. Sallie struggled to lift her head. This is the sickest I've ever felt. Am I going to die? She wondered. She heard Gale scream, No, it looks like that place. It's dark, but it looks the same. I'm still trapped. I must be. You're home. You're not trapped anymore. That damn door took us all the way back to Cloud County, Kansas. There's a road just a little ways away. A pair of lights gleamed out in that velvet prairie darkness. Gale quieted and stared. She seemed to fix her whole being on those lights. They grew larger until Sallie could see behind them, sketched in the air, the faint gold tracing of a car. The headlamps captured each individual blade of wheat in perfect detail, and then the car swept away, towards Laurel, Sallie thought, and home. Gale let out a shocked, wrenching wail, a scream of pain and triumph. She fell to her knees, and Sallie fell with her. That was all Sallie could bear. She couldn't see the stars or anything else. The world went dark. Sallie felt an engine rev awake around her. The vibrations buzzed through her body. She heard Gale's voice. You can do this, Gale said. Just think. Sallie opened her eyes. She found herself slumped in a car with her face smashed against the passenger seat window. So I did see a car in here, Sallie tried to say. But she just emitted a slurry of vowels. Oh, thank God she's alive. I'm alive, Sallie said. Yep. Sallie let her head roll towards Gale's voice. Gale sat at the wheel. The girl seemed to be struggling with the car. She looked in her rear view mirror, cursed in a foreign language, double-checked her gears, then put her foot on the gas. The car jolted backwards, and Gail gasped. She applied the gas again and eased the clutch, smoother this time. They backed out of the barn, slowly. The sky opened up above them. Out the windshield, Sallie saw that early morning light stained the sky a cobalt blue. The stars were gone. Sallie licked her lips. Her mouth felt like a leather purse, dry as anything. Gail nodded at the wheel. This car must belong to him. It comes from that place. She gripped the steering wheel so tight that Sallie heard the plastic squeak under her fingers. Sallie could sense something off about the car, now that she thought about it. The vibrations felt wrong, rhythmic, and beneath the grind of the engine, she heard voices chanting in unison. She reached out and she touched the metal plating of the door, but it dimpled beneath her fingernail, tough and leathery, and not like metal at all. The side mirror reflected some kind of desert vista back to them. Ramsey and his damn cars. All these treasures he traded with the Mystic Prairie. It's good we found this. I couldn't have walked otherwise, Sallie said. We're pretty close to town. Head east, and we'll hit Laurel, Kansas in just a little bit. How do you know that? I grew up here. Me and Ramsey. Sallie felt so tired. She let her eyes roll back in her head. Don't fall asleep. You might not wake up. Is that a threat? No, Sallie chuckled. She forced herself to sit up. Gail put the car in second gear, and they bounced along the grass for a little distance, until at last they came to the road that led into town. Head east, Sallie said again. Gail pulled the car onto the asphalt, and then she fiddled with the gear shift for a moment. The car eased forward and picked up speed. You grew up together, Gail said, in that flat voice. Yeah, that's how the whole situation got started. Gail's face remained stony, impassive. You know how to open a door. Like him. Me and Ramsey, we created that place. It happened when we were kids. We were playing make-believe. The game got too real. It's like we formed that world out of nothing. We called it the Mystic Prairie. Gail stared forward, expressionless, as she absorbed Sallie's account. You were playing? Sallie laughed mirthlessly. We were kids. The prairie whizzed by out the car window. We were kids. Quiet now. We were kids together. Sallie swallowed, her throat suddenly tight. She pictured that moment out on the prairie. Ramsey lay in the dirt, and Gail stood over him, and he laughed. In her mind's eye, she tried to conjure that boy she used to know, anxious, superior, and with a sour temper. But had he always been cruel? He laughed. The story of her life arranged itself suddenly around that laughter. It inflicted pain on the whole of her past and changed the meaning of all her memories. A few tears dropped onto her dress. She wiped her face and made herself stop crying. I want to thank you, Gail said. You saved me. I did the bare minimum. We're going to need to stop in town and get something to eat, and then we can take you, well, home, I guess. Wherever it is you need to go. Gail didn't answer. The road took them right through the center of Laurel. They passed the first churches and houses, and Gail's whole body tensed up, but her expression remained flat, like she'd forgotten she could move her face. Sallie sank low in her seat. Out the window, she saw a person she recognized, then another. Mrs. Banks, Mr. Harris, all these folks she used to know. Gail stared at each and every one of them. The car started to wander across the median. Hey, keep your eyes on the road, Gail, or let me drive. You're liable to kill somebody gawking like that. I'm fine. Gail righted the car and sat up straight. The town of Laurel looked the same as it had ever looked, Sallie thought. Caldwell's soda fountain, the bank, the churches, and the auto body shop. and the huge old Curio Emporium crouched in the distance. But coming out of Mystic Laurel, the town felt downright bustling. It was never supposed to be empty. What? The place where he trapped you. Ramsey and me made it as a kind of playground. It was the version of the life we wanted. We wanted to make something happen there. Well, something did. They stopped at a new diner in the middle of town. Gail parked the car. She seemed lost in some private panic. Sallie sat limp in the passenger's seat. She tried to gather her strength. If she could just get into that diner and eat some food, why, she'd be on the road to recovery in no time. The wound under her ribs wasn't bleeding much anymore. She just needed to rest and eat. But they couldn't go into the diner looking like this. "We've got to make ourselves respectable," Sallie said. "I'm covered in blood, and you've got to take off those rugby pads." Gail started to shuffle out of her armor. Sallie contemplated the blood stains on her own clothes. There were a lot of them, but if she tucked her blouse in tight and hitched her skirt up as high as it would go, she could conceal the stains. She dabbled at the sweat and smeared makeup around her eyes. She smoothed her hair back. Then she climbed out of the car. "Let's eat," she said. All at once, Gail seemed to rally. She hopped out of the car and stomped towards the diner. "Hey, wait, your hair's still a mess." Gail ignored her. She just lumbered forward, stiff and strange. Sallie limped after. Gail pulled the diner door open. A small bell rang. Gail startled at the sound. "Pull yourself together," Sallie whispered as she nudged Gail inside. The diner still looked brand new. Light flooded in from wall-to-wall windows. The chromium table edges played catch with the sunshine. A few folks looked up at them. Sallie wanted to sink into the floor. There weren't many people in the place, thank God. A man in a cowboy hat sat reading a newspaper at the bar. He held a dainty cup of coffee in his huge red hand. He sipped at it. Two old folks huddled by the window. They looked like they planned to stay for hours. And a couple of middle-aged women waited for their food at a table in the center of the checkered floor. At least she didn't recognize any of these folks, thank goodness. She hoped word wouldn't get back to Mama. Gail's eyes darted around the room. "Come on, let's find our seats," Sallie said. She pointed Gail towards a booth in the corner. They passed by a table still covered in dirty plates, crumpled napkins, and half-empty cups of coffee. The waitress hadn't cleaned up the mess yet. The moment Sallie saw the clutter on the table, she knew that something would go wrong, and it did. Gail darted forward, and she snatched up the remains of a partly eaten chicken fried steak from off a plate. She shoved it into her mouth. It happened so fast. It looked like reflex, Sallie thought. Like Gail didn't have a chance to stop herself. "Gail, don't do that. They'll kick us out." Gail looked at her impassively and chewed, but Sallie saw panic in her eyes. The middle-aged couple stared at them. So did the teenage waitress at the cash register. Sallie and Gail slid into their seats. Sallie felt her face burn. The waitress walked up to them. She wore high-set rouge on her cheeks, and she chomped at a wedge of gum. Are you two gonna be able to pay? You can't eat here if you can't pay." Sallie slathered on the jolliest Midwestern smile she could muster. Of course, miss. We're paying customers, ready to eat. Please excuse my friend here, she's just a little funny." She smiled even harder. The waitress stared. "2 glasses of orange juice, please, and thank you." The girls stared at them a moment more. Then she seemed to decide she didn't care enough to kick them out. She spun on her heel and she disappeared into the kitchen. Gail spread her hands out on the table and stared at them fixedly. "You think I'm stupid, huh?" Gail met Sallie's eyes, but her impassive expression didn't change. "I'm not stupid, I swear. I was valedictorian of my high school class. I was going to graduate with honors. It's just I didn't call you stupid. You called me slow. A box turtle. Oh, right. Well, look, I needed your help. Don't take it so seriously. It's not me. It's just that place. It got into my head, being alone like that. You don't know what it's like to be so alone. The waitress brought out the orange juice. She placed one of the glasses in front of Gail. Gail stared at it. Her blank expression broke apart at last, and her face dissolved into a look of unadulterated awe. She turned the glass reverently with her fingertips. It's beautiful to see orange juice again. The waitress side-eyed her. Just drinks? Or were you planning on ordering food? Sallie laughed awkwardly. Oh, yes, we can order right now. We will take 1 burger, well done, lettuce, tomato, mayo, ketchup. Sallie pretended to peruse the menu. And we would also like 3 more burgers, rare. The waitress looked up from her pad. 3 burgers, rare? Sallie chuckled nervously. Yup. Gosh, I could just eat the whole cow. The waitress didn't even try to hide her incredulity. She chewed gum at them as she gathered the menus, lips smacking. Then she walked off. Sallie exhaled. Gail took the tiniest sip of her orange juice. Her eyes filled with tears. No more cream soda, Sallie smiled. But then a sickening realization took hold of her. She scrambled for her purse. Oh boy, the money. I used my last coin on a telephone call and some candied popcorn. Maybe we aren't paying customers. Gail reached into her fencing pants and she removed a beaded drawstring coin purse. I'll pay. Gail took out several quarters and a dollar bill. Did you carry that money around with you the whole time you were trapped? I always wanted to be ready to leave. Gail took another reverent sip of orange juice and closed her eyes to savor it. It would take her all day to empty the glass at that rate, Sallie thought. The 2 middle-aged women at the central table were staring openly at them now, or rather, they stared at Gail. Sallie saw their puckered eyes, their unfriendly, flat mouths. She almost snapped at them to mind their manners, but then the waitress showed up with the food. The girl didn't try to make herself pleasant either. She set 1 hamburger down in front of Gail and 3 in front of Sallie and walked off without a word. Sallie slapped a smile on her face for Gail. Dig in! Sallie flipped the buns off the top of the burgers and gathered them into a little pile. Then she peeled the orange square off 1 patty and began to eat the rare puck of meat all on its own. Why are you eating it like that? Gail asked. Sallie grinned at her and took another bite. 'Cause of the blood loss. I gotta get my iron back up, and the protein helps me feel better too. It's unappetizing, but it does the job. The smell's turning my stomach. You just grabbed chicken fried steak scraps from off a table and you're telling me you aren't hungry? It's been so long since I ate this much meat. There was never much to eat in that place. I got so sick of the candy down in the pit. Sometimes I'd eat locusts. Gail's eyes grew wide. She seemed suddenly not to see the food in front of her. Sallie snapped her fingers in front of Gail's face. Well, you need to make yourself eat it. You think I want to eat this? No, but the sooner I make myself do it, the sooner I'll feel like myself again. Go on, have some. She gestured at Gail's plate. Gail took a small bite of hamburger, then another. Good, that's the ticket. Sallie smiled encouragingly. Out of the corner of her eye, Sallie saw the waitress bring the middle-aged women their food. The waitress threw a look at Gail over her shoulder. Then the 3 of them laughed. Gail dropped her eyes. I think they're laughing at me. She put her burger back down on the plate. Don't worry about them. It's my hair. Stupid, I should have tried to fix it. Go on and eat, Gail. Just keep eating and ignore them. You're never gonna see them again. Focus on what's important. Let's talk about getting you home. Where's home, by the way? Just outside Chicago. Well, Chicago's about an 8 or 9 hour drive from here, I think. We could take turns driving and figure it out from there. Who's waiting for you in Chicago? Got a boyfriend? Husband? My dad. Gail choked on the words. Awareness seemed to drain out of her eyes. She disappeared somewhere deep inside of herself. Sallie decided to give her a minute. She swallowed down another bite of burger. The two women at the nearby table spoke in low tones. Sallie heard the disgust in their voices and anger. It made the hair prickle on the back of her neck. They spoke quietly, but she could make out a few of the words. And then one of the women said something vile about Gail's eyes. Sallie's blood turned to lava. Her face burned. She wanted to break all the glassware in the restaurant. Oh, God damn it. This place, these people, it's just the same as it always was. Get me the hell out. At least Gail hadn't registered the woman's cruel comment, thank God. She was still lost in thought. At last, Gail spoke. My father's waiting for me, but I was just thinking, I don't even know how long it's been, how long I've been gone. Well, what year was it when you checked? 1963. Sallie stopped chewing. Why? What year is it now? Sallie swallowed and wiped her mouth with a napkin. We better eat up and get going soon so you can see your pop. Wait, what year is it now? Sallie looked up and met Gail's eyes. It's 1966, Gail. Gail froze, barely breathing. Go on and finish up. We have a long drive ahead of us. They paid for their food and walked back outside and headed towards the car. For the life of her, Sallie could not put a name to the car's color. Or maybe it had no color at all. Its hue seemed to shift as the cloud shadows passed over the ground. They climbed inside. Gail turned the engine over and the car started. That furious chanting filled the air. Sallie shuddered. That sound gave her the willies, like 1,000 murmuring priests crouched under the car hood. Gail snarled at it. I hate this car. The radio garbled to life.
Hate.
A voice said through a haze of static.
Hungry.
Sallie reached out with a limp hand and she turned the radio off. The red line of the radio station dial slid back and forth. The radio flicked back on. How do you turn it off? Gail roared. I just did. Do it again. Hold your horses. Sallie flicked the radio off. It's the same as his car, Gail murmured. The radio turned itself back on.
Hate this, lonely, lost. What will Dad think of me?
The radio screamed. With lightning swiftness, Gail produced a buck knife from out of nowhere. Sallie saw it for just a second, and then Gail drove it into the radio again and again and again. Sallie shrieked, half horrified, half delighted. Glittering shards of charcoal black car substance flew everywhere. Gail's face looked demonic with rage. The radio went silent. Gail threw down the knife. Then she sat there like a statue, with her hand on the wheel. She put the car in reverse, and they pulled away from the restaurant. They bought a map at the gas station, though they didn't need gas. Then they got back onto the road and drove right out of Laurel into the fields. The prairie practiced its hypnotism. They drove and drove. The horizon always displayed the same general collection of trees and prairie dog hills, rotten barns and ant mounds. Occasionally, they hit a crossroads, and then 3 highways made them 3 empty promises. Sometimes they glimpsed one lonely homestead out in the faraway fields, with a metal roof that caught the sun. The car chanted quietly to itself. The grass is green. The sun is moving, so it's different, Gail said once. Her eyes locked on the road. I'm not back there. And on they went, in silence. Hour upon hour, town after town. Home, Sallie thought. But Sallie wondered what it really meant to go home, because this sure didn't feel like home anymore. She knew the landscape with every atom of her heart, and yet it didn't welcome her. It was an unkind, familiar world she saw out the window. She thought of all those folks that looked like her and talked like her, and yet they kept the warheads out here, Sallie knew. And one day, those people would blow the world to smithereens. They turned onto the interstate highway. Sallie grew tired. What was that passage from the Bible? The one Mama used to recite. For we are strangers before thee, and sojourners, as were all our fathers. Our days on earth are as a shadow, and there is none abiding. What did you say? Sallie didn't even realize she'd spoken aloud. Exhaustion pushed at the back of her eyes. I don't know, I'm tired. I think I've been awake for 48 hours now. Sallie shook her head. An uncomfortable thought occurred to her. Wait, Gail, when's the last time you slept? You won't fall asleep at that wheel? I don't sleep like that. Huh? Said Sallie. I catnap, but I don't sleep. It's not safe. Well, just so long as you're okay for now, Sallie slurred at her. I'm gonna take a rest. She curled against the door and buried her head in her arms. When Sallie woke up, it was evening. She still felt limp and a bit lightheaded. Street lamps flashed by overhead, and a tiny moon chased after the car. Sallie stared at it through the side window. The smell of burning leaves came to her. She sat up. Gail drove them down a cozy little street. Sallie saw trim lawns and houses that looked like pint-sized castles, with stone and exposed wood beams on each facade. We're almost there, Gail said. This is my street. She sounded hoarse, and her knuckles shone white on the steering wheel. She stared straight ahead, eyes fixed. A few kids still lingered out in the street, but Gail didn't startle at the sight of them. She looked focused as hell, Sallie thought, like a girl who knew exactly what she wanted. Gail pulled the car into the driveway of one of those cute castle houses. This one had a sloped roof and a prominent chimney by the door. A tree stood in the yard. Gail smiled to see it. My oak tree. Dad and Mom planted it when I was born. That's real sweet, Sallie said. But Gail didn't hear her. Gail's chest rose and fell rapidly. It's real. I made it. I'm back. Abruptly, Gail got out of the car and marched to the house. She knocked at the door without pause, a nervous rap on the wood. Sallie eased onto her feet. She leaned against the car until she felt sure her legs could support her. Then she stumbled forward and caught the stoop railing. A little girl opened the door, a blonde little kid with pigtails. Who are you? Gail stared at the girl, her eyes wide and darting, lost. I'm looking for Charles Walsh. He lives here. The little girl stared at Gail. No, I live here. Gail's eyes bugged wider. She looked ready to push into the house. What? No, that can't be true. Sallie grabbed Gail's wrist. Hey, calm down, Sallie said. But Gail didn't hear her. Dad? Dad? She pulled out of Sallie's weak grip and pushed past the little girl into the house. Gail, wait, don't. Hey, steady. Gail, your dad moved, it seems like. But Sallie couldn't do much of anything to stop Gail, so she limped right up to the door and she peered inside. The little girl started to shriek. Mom, there's some lady in the house. A woman appeared from out of the kitchen. She had a face like a rock, blunt and meaningless and hard. Who are you? What are you doing here? Sallie realized just how strange Gail must look. Disheveled hair and fencing pants from 50 years ago. I'm looking for the person who lives here. Charles Walsh, my father. Please, I need him. He couldn't be your father. Look at you. Daryl, there's a strange woman here. A man's tread sounded on the stairs. A big man in button-up shirt sleeves walked into the hall. What is going on? This strange, crazy woman just barged on in here. She pushed Grace. No, wait, I'm looking for Charles Walsh. Please, he used to live here. Her voice shook. Get out. The man bulked forward, and Gail stepped back and back and back through the door. I just need to know where I can find him. He's dead. The man slammed the door in Gail's face. Gail stood like a statue for 10 long seconds. Then she turned. She walked across the yard and stopped at the oak tree. She reached up into the branches and she plucked a leaf off the bough. Then she walked back to the car. Sallie didn't know what to say. Gail climbed into the driver's seat. She sat at the wheel and she stared at nothing. Sallie limped after her and got back in the car. Gail didn't acknowledge her. She just twirled the oak leaf between her 2 fingers. Do you have anyone else you can go to, Gail? Silence. Finally, Gail spoke in a whisper. I had a fiancé. No, I don't have anyone. You're sure? Yes. He must be married by now. I'm sorry about your dad. No answer. You could stay in Chicago. Find out what happened? No, Gail said. No, I can't. Sallie shifted uncomfortably in her seat. Well, you come to New York. Stay with me for a while. New York? Yeah, I have a spare room. Practically a closet. Just for a little while, till you figure out where to go. Doesn't have to be forever. Gail hesitated, and Sallie's heart cried out within her. No one is forever. Nowhere is forever. But she didn't say the words aloud. She thought of Ramsey. What do you say? Gail mouthed the words, all right, and nodded, but she couldn't speak. All right, Sallie said. Let's go home. Mystic Prairie is a third Cosmonaut production, written and produced by Katherine Jameson and McKinley Baker, performed by Katherine Jameson and with music by the same, editing by McKinley Baker. If you like what you've heard and you want to support us, please help us get the word out and recommend this podcast to your friends. Thanks for listening.